right? Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. Today we're gonna do a mushroom risotto, but not just any mushroom risotto. We're gonna be using US Calrose rice. Now, if you are fans of Italian food, you know that mushroom risotto or any risotto should be made from a very specific type of rice called cannaroli or arborio. These are special rice which when you cook, it will turn the liquid very creamy and the rice will stay like very nice and al dente. But you know, we are an Asian kitchen, so we don't have cannaroli rice usually in the cupboard, right? We have something like Calrose rice, which we use for porridge, we use to make pao fan, we use for fried rice, we use for sushi. With a few hacks, you can make this mushroom risotto very nicely, very quickly and easily. So this is the USA Calrose rice, which won Best Rice in 2015. It's grown in the USA using modern technology, and they use even less water now to grow this rice. I'm just going to show you how to make one portion, which is good enough for 2 people. So you need 1 cup of rice. You put into your rice cooker. You can cook it over the stove as well, but you know, most people have a rice cooker, right? So I'm just going to cook this rice almost like a normal rice, except we're going to use less water. So for 1 cup of rice, we're going to use about 80% of that cup of water. This will mean that the rice will be a little bit drier, but it's already cooked all the way through. And then when we cook the risotto, it will cut down on the time and the stirring that is needed. So this goes into the rice cooker. So I can see that this rice is a little bit hard. It is still nice and al dente. I got some Swiss brown mushroom and some shimeji mushrooms. You can use any kind of mushrooms will do, and any amount will do actually. First thing is to slice up all the mushrooms. It looks like a lot of mushrooms, right? But you know, mushrooms shrink when you cook them. Once all the water comes out, it will actually shrink to just a little portion. So don't worry, this is actually not much. Okay, so these are shimejis. All you need to do is to cut off the roots. These mushrooms are all available in your supermarket and they are relatively cheap. So actually making a risotto is actually not very expensive. We also need some onions. So the second thing we do is to cook the mushroom. Now, you put the mushroom into the pan. Those of you who are very perceptive say, hey, but your pan not on there. Correct. Because actually, the best way to cook mushroom is to steam them first before you add the oil. So I'm just going to put all the mushroom into a pan, put in a bit of water, alright, and then I'm going to cover it and then turn on the gas. So by steaming it first and cooking the mushroom, you force all the excess water out, then you add on the oil, you actually use less oil, okay? So this is a little trick. This recipe is very forgiving, right? The only thing you need to get right is the amount of water to cook the rice and subsequently how much stock you put in. Okay, so now that it's soft, I'm going to put in some butter. Okay, I'm going to put in just a little bit of soy sauce. This is for color as well as for the extra umami and saltiness. What we want to do is to get some of that mushroom a little bit brown. You might want to add a little bit of salt as well. I got some nice sea salt here. You don't need to add too much salt because later on we're going to add Parmesan cheese as well. The last stage is, this is optional. If you don't have mirin, you can just use a bit of wine, water. But I'm going to add in the mirin to deglaze the pan. And the mirin will add a little bit of sweetness and shine to the mushroom as well. So this is done. I'm going to set it aside. So now we're going to do the rice, because we're going to start with the onions first. So we're going to add some cooking oil, a bit of butter. Okay, and we add in all the onions. A little bit of salt. This will help to draw out the liquid from the onions as well, as to give it a bit of seasoning. You don't need to overcook the onions, you just need to gently sweat it, because you want a little bit of crunch left in the onions. Now we put in the Calrose rice, which we have cooked earlier. We're going to use all that oil to coat the rice. Make sure that each grain of rice is nicely coated with a bit of butter, a bit of oil before we add in the stock. Okay, so now we've got all the rice nicely coated with a bit of butter. We're gonna add in the stock. So this is a bit of stock. I have mushroom stock powder. Or if you don't have mushroom stock powder, chicken powder is fine. Because the rice is already cooked, you only need a few minutes. I'm going to put in a bit of butter. Okay, so if you're cooking traditional risotto, it'll probably take you about 15 minutes to get to this stage. You want to stir the rice in order to release all that starch. But you know, this rice has already been cooked, so a lot of the starch is already, you know, lost in the water. So what we're going to do in this stage, this is the second hack. If you see that the rice is not creamy enough, you can actually replace some of the starch. We're going to use this Chinese method, right? I'm just going to have a bit of corn flour and stir in a little bit of corn flour to replace some of the starch that we washed out when we cooked the rice. It's almost ready. We're going to lower the heat. I'm just going to add in a little bit more of the stock. And if you want to know whether the rice is ready, just try. It should be nice and firm, and the stock should be creamy. So the rice is already ready. Put in a little bit of the mushroom to get that mushroom flavor into the rice. And then we're going to turn it off and put in some Parmesan cheese. Okay, the Parmesan cheese will also thicken the sauce. Just a little bit more butter to give it a bit more richness. If it's too dry, you can always add in a little bit more stock. It's done. This is one portion. It's a traditional way of letting your right, and then we're gonna add mushroom on top. Last but not least, you have this at home, and I don't see why you shouldn't have a bottle of truffle oil at home, and a bit of flat leaf parsley. Here you have very nice, easy to make, foolproof almost, mushroom risotto using USA Calrose rice. Must try it at home. Okay, time to eat. Actually what you smell is the truffle oil, right? Okay, so the truffle oil really adds a very nice fragrance to the whole thing. But what we want to taste is the rice. So nice and creamy, and it's got a bit of bite. Every grain is distinct. Actually better than some of the risotto I've eaten outside. You can easily make it at home. But remember, get hold of some USA Calrose rice and then follow my hacks. You're gonna end up having a really, really nice mushroom risotto. Until next time, happy cooking.